This Equipment World video is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. Hi everybody, welcome back to Equipment World. You're watching The Dirt. I'm your host Brian, and today we're going to talk about how to become more efficient. And when we talk about efficiency in the dirt world, so often we come back to how can we move more dirt quicker and cheaper, because that's efficiency. But what we don't realize is there's a lot of inefficiencies that happen outside of the actual site stuff. And here to talk about that with us today is Troy Guevera with Digitek Solutions. He is with a consulting firm that they actually help people in our industry become more efficient overall as a business. But before we get into that, I want to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its exhaust aftertreatment system has traditionally been seen as an either-or proposition when it comes to choosing the engine oil that's going to protect your system. And that's exactly why Chevron spent more than a decade of R&D work developing a no-compromise formulation. Now, I don't have to tell you why a clogged DPF is bad news, but here's the real kick in the pants. 90% of that ash clogging up your DPF and then upping your fuel and maintenance costs, it comes from your engine oil. You might be thinking, why don't they make an engine oil with less ash in it then? You'll be happy to learn that Chevron agrees with you. They've developed a new ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by 60%, radically reducing the rate of DPF clogging and extending the DPF service life by 2.5 times. Before you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system. Now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash. Well, Troy, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you agreeing to be on The Dirt today.
No, it's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So in the dirt industry, we tend to think about becoming more efficient in a very dirt-focused way. You know, how can we move material more efficiently around a job site? What are the ways that you think about efficiency when it comes to improving a company?
So having worn the contractor hat and now living in the world I live in now, there's a lot of little things that I think we don't consider as contractors that we maybe should. Now, first off, you're always about how do you increase productivity, right? So you find all those tips and tricks and tweaks to make adjustments and to improve production, to find those efficiencies. And it can be just the simple stuff. But if you think about it, as an excavator, you're not grabbing 20 shovels, you're grabbing a backhoe, right? Or an excavator, right? You're always doing that. And we were always looking for ways to have more efficient equipment, more efficient, whatever those processes were, to eliminate multiple steps. But a lot of what I've discovered now on this side of it, and as a former business owner, is that there's a lot of efficiencies that we don't think of. Efficiencies with plans, issues with change orders, RFIs, those types of things where we're disconnected from the office and we're looking for answers and we're not getting those answers. And I can't tell you how many times we run into issues where we've either had to stop work or we've had to do rework or whatever, because we didn't recognize there were efficiencies we could have put in place to eliminate that.
So you're really honing in on the office side and kind of the inefficiencies that are translating out into the job site simply because of a lot of times communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, when cell phones came out, how much better was that for the industry? And I'm sure there's listeners that don't know what that was like, but I remember having pagers and having to jump off the wall and run and hop on the phone, right, to get answers for things. But now you think of the ability to get data. When I say data, a set of plans, an RFI, a change order, like almost in real-time responses. Because there's times when maybe you and another trade are doing this, right? You need to get something resolved. Well, let's get it resolved now. Let's not have to shut things down and wait for 24 hours for things to get resolved.
What are some steps, in your opinion, that some companies can start to take to kind of just at a high level evaluate how efficient they are? What are some red flags that stick out to you?
Yeah, obviously the first one, if you're not making money, we've got some inefficiencies, right? And I think the tendency, and I'm sure you guys have spoken about this, if you got money at the end of the job in the bank account, you think you were profitable. That's not the case. But if you think about maybe trying to go bigger picture on that, there's a lot of little pieces you can put in place about having the right tools in place. we've got to have the right systems in place so we can measure those inefficiencies and identify where those inefficiencies are. Now, here's the cool part. Most experienced journeymen know that and they can see that, right? But they don't have a way to translate to the office. And unfortunately, the people in the office, they don't listen to the people in the field. Right. And we've all experienced
what? I thought that was totally just companies I've worked for that doesn't translate.
Yeah. Everybody in the office knows what's going on. They know it all, right? They don't listen to the guys.
And it's just a bunch of dumb field guys.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. And if you have the ability to convey that information back to the office so that you can fix those inefficiencies, whatever they are, it's going to do a tremendous amount for your business.
Let's say as a business, we've kind of identified some areas that we think we can improve upon. What's kind of the workflow? What's the process of actually going through and trying to correct some of those inefficiencies in your mind?
Well, first off, the probably the biggest thing is to get somebody else to come and take a look at it, right? Because you've kind of got blinders on, right? This is what you've seen. You see that same stuff.
We've always done it this way.
Yep. Yeah. That mentality, right? This is how we've always done it. We make money. We're good to go. Sure, you probably are good to go. But do you want to make more money? Do you want to be more efficient? Do you want to be more profitable? That can happen. So a set of outside eyes to take a look at things, and that can be both in the office and in the field. I remember having a consultant come out just to look at our job site, and he wrote down, the guy was there all day long just looking at stuff we were doing wrong. It was like, he had this pages of notes, and I was like, wow. Right? Stuff that we were like, well, that's no big deal. We learned to just do workarounds around things because that's what we were used to doing, right? That was acceptable. And he was like, no, change this behavior and you'll be that much more efficient.
I don't know how to say this in a delicate way, so I'm not even going to try. Our industry is terrible at implementing technology. We are so far behind the times in the construction sector when it comes to utilizing technology. I guess my question would be how, for a lot of these contractors that have never even really looked into implementing technology, how do you go about looking for a solution to a problem that you don't realize you have?
Yeah, great point. And I've heard that a lot, right? But I want to say this to you. If you see a better piece of equipment, a more efficient piece of equipment, how many owners go out and purchase that? They do, right? Because they trust it. The issue hasn't been that we're not willing to adopt new technology. It's that we don't trust that new technology, right? We're basically, and with anything that's in the office side, you're trusting your financials to a piece of software that you don't even know how it works, right? So I get that. And so if you think about it, you've got to find, you need, again, that outside set of eyes, somebody that's neutral, and they're willing to say, look, these are the issues and here's how we fix those issues. And there's defaults. When we start a business, we have our defaults, right? Okay, let's just find these simple office solutions and we're good to go. But what happens a lot of times is because we don't know what we don't know, we just start grabbing, okay, I'll grab this piece and I'll grab this piece and I'll grab this piece. And they solve those problems, but they create a whole new world of problems that we didn't realize we were going to create because we didn't have the knowledge to be able to connect everything together.
So, and you kind of touched in it on our last question. Would you really kind of recommend for a lot of these companies, would you say it's worth it to bring in a third party to kind of evaluate at a higher level, also because they have the expanded knowledge base of what's out there that could help you? Is it really worth it for companies to hire an outside firm to come in and really evaluate how effective they are as a construction company?
In my opinion, yes. But I need to throw some caution with that. There are a lot of people out there and their intent is to sell you something, then they walk away and they're done. You want somebody that's got a background in the construction world. And the reason I say that is because they can relate to you. And there's a lot of, especially in the software world, there's a lot of products out there that you just get a bunch of guys that are just trying to sell you software. Just to say it bluntly, they'll screw you, okay? They just want to get the sale and they walk away and they're done. You need somebody that's got expertise and understands your situation and they can relate to you and say, okay, I get it. And so I think that's probably the most critical part. It's not just about talking the talk, it's about them being able to understand your situation and really give you a solution that's going to work.
I will say, as poor of a job as we do as an industry at implementing technology, I do feel like we all have a really good gut check on we don't trust people from outside the industry. I feel like that's just naturally bred into all of us.
No, you're absolutely right.
Kind of in that mindset of being efficient, as you look back on your career while you were active in the trades, and forgive me, are you still actively working as a bricklayer, or are you purely on the consulting side now?
Purely 100% consulting nowadays. Yeah.
So as you go back through your life as a bricklayer, what are some of the things business-wise that you feel like you wish you would have done sooner that made you more efficient and kind of gave you that extra edge?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of things, right? Hindsight's always much better. Probably the biggest thing for me was setting things up right from the beginning, right? And I remember when we started, there wasn't a lot of money in the bank account, right? It's like, okay, let's start as lean as we can. And there's no sin in that. But maybe there's an element of maybe we could have stayed a little leaner for a little longer, and it would have made us more profitable. That profit would have been more exponential on the back end because we would have had processes set up correctly. My recommendation is you get this core accounting piece that's going to give you good information, job cost data that's coming in, and then you can take that to your estimating side. I mean, you're going to start with the estimating, right? You got to go get your first job. And what information do you have? You have your experience. That's it, right? You're kind of shooting from the hip on those first few estimates as you get your business rolling. But once you get it rolling and you've got data coming in from those job costs, you can start applying that to the estimating side. Now you've got some real lean information. And more importantly is you've got information that starts to distinguish you from your competition. And if you can get in that world where you get out of that low bid world and get into that world where you have contractors who want you to work for them, they don't necessarily want the low price. They want somebody they can trust and count on, and they're willing to pay a little bit of a premium to have that person because they'll make that money up, right? And you will too. If you've got that contractor you can trust, you're willing to give up a little bit because you know you can trust him and he's not going to nickel and dime you. You're not going to nickel and dime him, and so it's a win-win for everybody.
I will say that is one of the areas that I feel like our industry in particular really fails at a big level, and that's selling value over low bid. Well, I mean, it is consistently a race to the bottom on price, and I think a lot of it just has to do with no one really understands how to sell the value that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, we have to differentiate ourselves, right? And when you can differentiate yourself, you're no longer a commodity. And if you think about that, I know we had specific suppliers for certain things. Now, I could have gone to any of a handful of suppliers, whether it was for brick or block or whether it was for concrete or whatever, right? Or even equipment. But I had my chosen suppliers, and the reason I had them was because we had a relationship. So I might have paid a little bit more for a material. And when I say a little more, it's, pennies per unit. But it was worth it because of the value I got. I knew that if I needed this material on this date, it was there and it was ready for us, right? And so I didn't have to worry about some of those other things. I wasn't kicked to the curb. I wasn't a commodity to them. They valued me. And as a result, I valued that relationship. So we kept that relationship. And if you think about it, if you can transition that to your contractors you're working for, you're going to continue to get business from contractors because they value you and your relationship. Now, guess what? You're not in that low bid area anymore. You're not worried about, hey, am I even going to make money on this job? You're able to say, hey, we've got a great relationship. Yeah, I'm not the low guy, but you know about our relationship. Give me the job. And they're willing to say, okay, I can give you the job. You don't need to match his number, but can you be reasonable? Sure. Of course I can, right? And I know for us, that was where we had our biggest success, was our ability to have a solid relationship. And then you just, if I can say this, just milk that contractor, right? You just keep going after those contracts and you're making money, good money on jobs, and you're not in this low bid environment anymore. As soon as you can get out of that low bid environment, you're going to be more profitable.
And I'll add to that to kind of rope it all back into the original topic. I wouldn't even, I get what you're saying with the milking term, and I agree that is kind of the term you would use. But at the same time, tying back into the efficiencies, that's going to play into, if you've established all of these relationships on your supplier side, to where you're no longer getting that call at 8:30 in the morning from your supplier. Oh, sorry, we had a bigger customer that called. Your order of bricks not coming today, and now you got to delay your builder by another 2 or 3 days. Once you kind of become more efficient through the relationships that you've formulated, because you're buying based on value and not on bottom dollar, that's translating to your builder. And now all of a sudden, it's not necessarily a true milking, because the builder's getting the value of, look, these guys cost me a little bit more, but I am always dead on with my timeline with these guys because they take care of me. They're good at what they do. And they have this whole host of supplier relationships that they've established that support what they're doing that keeps my project on time.
Yeah, it eliminates you from being that commodity, and you've got that trusted relationship. Yeah, I think you bring value to them. They're going to want to work with you forever, and they're more forgiving. Everybody's going to make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes on jobs, but if they know your relationship, they're going to forgive those mistakes faster than somebody who's ever worked with you before, right? Huge piece right there.
Well, this is great, Troy. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you for all the wisdom. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you again to Troy and Digitek Solutions for coming on the show today, just to kind of discuss some of the ways you can start to even begin to think about how to become more efficient in your business outside of the actual on-site stuff. So this is really interesting conversation. I would absolutely encourage you, if you are interested in learning more, reach out to Troy and he'd be happy to help you. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope this has been helpful. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Dirt.